Hello everyone, my name is Freitas and welcome to this presentation entitled History of Ethnomusicology, Some Aspects of Remodeling a Master of Arts Seminar. I hope you enjoy it. Firstly, it should be stated that this is a small version of my paper. For more information regarding the contextual and theoretical framework adopted, please take a look at the full paper. Without further ado, I will now detail how I managed to remodel the discipline History of Ethnomusicology. This discipline is part of Nova FCSH Master's Program in Ethnomusicology in Lisbon. For almost 30 years, it was taught by the now emeritus Professor Salwa El-Shawan Castelo Branco, responsible for bringing modern ethnomusicology to Portugal since 1982, and the foundation and presidency of Instituto de Ethnomusicologia, Centro de Estudos em Música e Dança, INET-MD, from 1995 until 2020. Presently, and since 2013, she is the president of the International Council for Traditional Music, ICTM. In 2019, I taught this discipline with Professor Castelo Branco, and since her retirement in 2020, I became responsible for teaching the seminar as a visiting professor. During our team teaching experience, Professor Castelo Branco presented me with the challenge of reorganizing the seminar and finding new methods to conduct the sessions. Therefore, I was faced with a compelling question. How can I reconfigure a paramount discipline and adapt it to the profile of contemporary students while endorsing her impeccable legacy? Firstly, let me give you more information about the seminar. So, the seminar has the following objectives. Firstly, to identify the major research questions, concepts, theoretical perspectives, methods, techniques, authors, and publications that marked the history of the discipline. Secondly, is to acquire the conceptual tools for developing a critical perspective on the literature in focus. Third, to develop the ability to relate political, social, and musical processes. And last but not least, to apply the acquired knowledge in the preparation of many outputs, including a thematic bibliography and an essay. The remodeling process started with a very simple question: how to engage students to identify and understand historical processes in music. I found answers not necessarily in changing the content, which mostly remained the same, but in adopting new teaching techniques, focusing on storytelling practices. I adopted for every session a three-parted structure. First, cold open. Second, exposition. And third, discussion. It should be stated that every session has a media projector, a PowerPoint, and a dedicated sound system. So these sessions can be easily adapted to online modality. A cold open is a narrative tactic widely used in television and films, and is characterized by jumping directly to the story right at the beginning, before the title sequence appears. It guarantees that the audience gains interest in the program from the very beginning. In the classroom, I apply this technique by presenting audio and video samples that are relevant to the topic at hand. And as it happens in television shows, a cold open can recap previous sessions or provide crucial information that will prove instrumental for the current one. After listening and visualizing a musical example, students are then asked to comment on what they just heard and seen. It is a perfect moment to test and train musical analysis by ear, especially when there is no score or other visual representation involved. It is also an ideal moment to deconstruct stereotypes related to music and dance, or introduce general topics such as nation building, ethnicity, migration, music industries, among others. An example of a cold open includes the comparison of two samples, a performance by Kulthum and a Quran recitation. After asking the students to analyze and compare both pieces, I explained that although they have very similar sound qualities, including timbre, melodic traits, and ornaments, the first example is widely considered as music, and the second is not. The idea is to draw attention to the conceptual dimensions and the values that inform musical practices, and call the students' attention to ethnocentric attitudes they may have. I can also use the cold open to deconstruct concepts such as civilization, or to problematize copyright issues. Some examples may even come from unconventional media such as video games, or controversial television interviews such as BBC's Pink Floyd interview conducted by musicologist Hans Keller in 1967. This section can last from 15 to 35 minutes depending on the topic addressed. If the cold open is particularly effective and provides interesting, thought-provoking discussions, it can and it should be further expanded. Naturally, that depends on the student's level and the interest in a given subject. After the cold open comes exposition, and the teacher is mainly in charge of this section, emphasizing and clarifying the topics covered, including references to its primary object, social need, methods, techniques, individuals, and institutions. These ideas are then contextualized within the social sciences, arts, and humanities, and its theoretical paradigms such as cultural evolutionism, diffusionism, functionalism, and structuralism. The presentation of these contents can be complemented with photographs, videos, and other representations such as paintings. For example, in a session dedicated to safeguarding North American indigenous heritage, I contextualized their history with paintings, newspaper articles, and photographs. These historical moments include the arrival of the colonizers, the Indian Removal Act, the Trail of Tears, and the Wounded Knee Massacre. By resorting to visual depictions of war and suffering, the students become aware of the social needs behind the Bayesian anthropology, which is one of the main objectives of that particular session. Other audiovisual materials, such as interviews with authors or documentaries, can also be used if available. The time allocated for this section can vary from 60 to 90 minutes. The students' participation will be required throughout this section. The final segment, entitled Discussion, includes presentations by students of selected texts related to the session's topic, including relevant articles and book chapters. It's a 10-minute presentation followed by a 10 to 15-minute discussion. The teacher distributes these texts at the end of every session, so the students have a week to prepare for the next one. Given this discipline's strong emphasis on historical processes, the bibliography includes two types of publications. The first refers to the author's voice in its time, and the second includes contemporary analysis of the issues discussed. Specific quotes can then be projected for the students to comment and debate upon. The objective is to make sure students can effectively analyze the contents, relating them to the previous exposition and, in the process, develop their critical awareness. Some questions that are common to our presentations can then be asked. Why did this perspective make sense at a given time? Why was it adopted to the study of expressive culture, including music and dance? Can we embrace it nowadays? Why? The main objective is to familiarize the students with the historical trajectory of the discipline. The session ends with a quick recap of ideas to clarify the particular argument of that session within the general scope of the discipline. And there you have it. Summarizing, we have a cold open, which is mainly dedicated to musical analysis and to deconstructing concepts, and it lasts from 15 to 35 minutes. Then we have exposition that presents the session's main contents in relation to the major trends in social sciences and humanities, and it lasts from 60 to 90 minutes. Finally, we have the discussion, which features presentations by the students and deep analysis and discussions. It can last from 40 to 60 minutes. Now some closing remarks. During the period I taught this discipline, I noticed that with every session, students shifted their conceptions about expressive culture and musical practices. Their competence gradually improved from class to class, and I noticed that their critical perception got more refined. During the cold open, the stories told had surprising effects on students, especially those that focused on serious problems or injustice. Because of that, some students even changed the focus of their master dissertation. This is the greatest reward for a teacher, to be able to inspire a student to go beyond a linear path, to think outside the box, and find interesting themes that are socially relevant. I believe that university education should not be merely seen as a path for obtaining a degree. It should be more than that. It should be a transformative experience that have impact upon the students' lives as socially responsible human beings. At the end of the day, that's the noblest goal of all. And there you have it. Thank you so much for having me. It has been a privilege. Don't forget to read the full paper, and if you have any question, please feel free to contact me. Thank you so much.